For most of my adult life, I've dealt with, bloating, belching after meals, and reflux that woke me up at night. I just accept it as part of getting older, something you manage, not something you fix. I tried antacids and things like that, avoiding certain foods at certain times here and there. Nothing made a consistent difference. And nobody, not one doctor, ever connected what was happening in my gut to what was happening in my heart. After my double bypass, when I started changing my diet, going low carb, then keto, then eventually carnivore, something unexpected happened. That bloating went away. The belching stopped. The acid reflux that I had managed with medications occasionally for years eventually disappeared. And the more I researched why that happened, the more I realized that fixing my gut wasn't just about digestive discomfort. It was directly connected to fixing my heart. Today, we're talking about the gut and heart connection. What is it, why it matters, and what going on carnivore taught me about both. Now, if you're 55 or over and managing your cardiovascular health, this is a conversation that most doctors, they're not going to have with patients, but the research is there, and my personal experience confirms it. I want to make a quick disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. Everything I share is based on my own research and personal experience after a double bypass. Talk to your healthcare provider about your specific situation. Now, let's click that like button and let's keep going. Let me start with something that I think surprises most people. The idea that your gut and your heart are directly connected. Not metaphorically, not loosely associated, but through specific biological mechanisms that researchers are only now just beginning to fully understand. Your gut is home to trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses, collectively known as the gut microbiome. This ecosystem plays a role in digestion, immune function, hormone production, and inflammation regulation. And when the ecosystem is disrupted, when the balance between beneficial and harmful bacteria gets thrown off, the consequences extend far beyond your digestive tract. Chronic gut dysfunction drives systemic inflammation. And as we've talked about in previous videos in this series, chronic inflammation is one of the primary drivers of cardiovascular disease. Inflamed arterial walls, increased plaque formation, higher cardiovascular risk. The gut is not a separate system operating in isolation. It is deeply integrated with your cardiovascular health in ways that the standard medical model has been slow to recognize and even slower to act on. For those of us over 55 who have already experienced cardiac events or who are working to prevent them, understanding the gut-heart connection is not optimal information. It's central to what we're trying to do. If you're over 55 and serious about your heart health, this channel was built specifically for you. Subscribe right now so you don't miss a single video in this series. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you dealt with the gut issues like bloating, acid reflux, or digestive problems? And has anyone ever connected those issues to your heart health? I want to hear from you in this community, and share this video with someone who thinks their digestive problems and their heart problems are two completely separate issues. They may not be. Let's keep going. Now, let me explain two specific compounds found in plant foods I believe were driving a significant amount of my gut dysfunction before I went carnivore. And once you understand what these are and what they do, the carnivore approach to gut health starts to make a lot more sense. The first one is lectins. Lectins are proteins found in many plant foods, grains, legumes, nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and peppers and others. Plants produce lectins as natural defense mechanism, a way of discouraging animals and insects from eating them. And in the human gut, lectins can cause real problems. Lectins bind to the cells cell linings in your intestinal wall. Over time, with repeated exposure, they can damage these cells and interfere with the integrity of the gut lining itself. This is one of the primary mechanisms behind what's known as leaky gut, a condition I want to come back to in a moment because it's directly relevant to heart health. Lectins can also interfere with nutrient digestion and contribute to the kind of chronic low-grade gut inflammation that many people have learned to accept as normal. Before I went carnivore, I was eating grains and legumes and some vegetables that are high in lectins. And I was bloated and uncomfortable almost after every meal. I didn't connect the two of these at the time. Looking back, the connection just seems obvious. The second compound is oxalates. Oxalates are naturally occurring acids found in many plant foods: spinach, almonds, sweet potatoes, chocolates, and others that contain significant amounts. Your body produces some oxalates naturally, but dietary oxalates add to that load. And when oxalate levels get too high, they can form crystals in your tissues, most famously in the kidneys as kidney stones, but also in joints, blood vessels, and other tissues throughout the body. For cardiovascular health, the relevant concern with oxalates is that they contribute to oxidative stress and inflammation. Two things we've already established in primary drivers of heart disease. Some researchers also believe that oxalate crystals depositing in the arterial tissue may contribute directly to arterial damage. The research on this is still developing, but the direction is worth paying attention to. When I eliminated plant foods and lectins and oxalates by going carnivore, something shifted in my gut almost immediately. The bloating that I had accepted as fact in life started to disappear within the first few weeks. Now, let me explain leaky gut, because this is one of the most important, concepts in the understanding gut health connection, gut heart health connection, and one of the most underappreciated factors in cardiovascular health. Your intestinal lining is designed to be selectively permeable. It lets digested nutrients through into your bloodstream while keeping larger molecules, bacteria, and toxins out. That selective barrier is maintained by tight junctions, essentially the seals between the cells of your intestinal wall. When these tight junctions get damaged by lectins, by chronic stress, by alcohol, by certain medications, by a disrupted gut microbiome, the barrier becomes compromised. Larger molecules that shouldn't be getting in through start leaking into your bloodstream, partially digested food particles, bacterial fragments, toxins from the gut. This is leaky gut, or intestinal permeability, as it's called in the research literature. And here's the heart connection. When these foreign particles enter your bloodstream, your immune system responds. It triggers inflammation to deal with what it perceives as invaders. And if your gut is chronically leaky, that immune response becomes chronic systemic inflammation. The same inflammation that damages arterial walls, promotes plaque formation, that drives cardiovascular disease. Leaky gut is not a fringe concept anymore. The research on intestinal permeability, I have a hard time with that word, and its connection to systemic inflammation and cardiovascular risk has been growing steadily. And for those of us over 50 who have already had cardiac events, the idea that our gut health may have been contributing to our cardiovascular problem for years is both sobering and actionable. Going carnivore eliminates most of the dietary factors that damage the gut lining. No lectins, no gluten, no processed food additives, no high oxalate foods. You're giving your intestinal wall a chance to heal. And as it heals, the chronic immune activation that was driving systemic inflammation begins to quiet down. That's not just good for your gut, that's good for your heart. A quick break here. If this is connecting dots for you that nobody has connected before, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe so you get every video in this series. Share this with someone who's dealing with both digestive issues and heart health concerns, because the connection between the two is something most doctors never explain. And leave a comment below. Have you ever tried eliminating lectins or high oxalate foods? What happened? So next up I want to talk about is the gut microbiome on a carnivore diet, because this is where a lot of people push back. The standard argument is that you need fiber and plant foods to maintain a healthy gut microbiome. And I want to address this honestly. And the traditional view of gut health has been heavily focused on fiber, especially the idea that dietary fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and that without it, the microbiome suffers. This is why high fiber diets have been recommended for gut health, for decades. And there is truth to it. Certain beneficial bacteria do ferment fiber and produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids that support gut health. But here's what the fiber narrative misses. The gut microbiome is remarkably adaptable. When you shift to a carnivore diet, your microbiome shifts with you. Different bacterial populations thrive on different substances. On a carnivore diet, bacteria that thrive on protein and fat become more dominant. The diversity of your microbiome changes, but diversity for its own sake is not, it's not the goal. A microbiome that is well matched to what you're eating, and that supports rather than disrupts your health, and that's the goal. What many carnivore dieters report, and what I experienced personally, is that the chronic gut symptoms that plague them on higher carbohydrate and higher plant food diets resolved significantly when they switched to carnivore. Less bloating, less gas, less discomfort, fewer digestive problems overall. That's not what you'd expect in removing plant foods. It was devastating the microbiome. The research on carnivore and the microbiomic, I should say, is still limited and ongoing. I'm not going to tell you that science is settled, because it isn't. What I can tell you is what happened in my own gut with the improvement, that has been significant and sustained. Now I want to talk about something that most people never heard in the context of gut and heart health: the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the largest, it's the longest and largest, I guess you could say, nerve in your body. It runs from your brainstem all the way down through your chest, passing directly by your heart and into your abdomen. When it connects to your digestive tract, that's where it connects to your digestive tract. It's the primary pathway of what's called the gut-brain axis, the two-way communication system between your gut and your brain. But here's what most people don't know. The vagus nerve also directly connects your gut to your heart. It plays a critical role in regulating heart rate, specifically in activating the parasympathetic nervous system response that slows your heart rate, and it promotes calm and recovery. Heart rate variability, which is increasingly recognized as a powerful marker of cardiovascular health. is largely regulated through the vagus nerve. Better vagal tone means better heart rate variability, means better cardiovascular resistance also, and resilience. Excuse me. And gut health directly affects vagal tone. Chronic gut inflammation and dysfunction can impact your vagal signaling. A healthy gut supports healthy vagal function, which supports healthy heart regulation, which supports cardiovascular health. This is the gut-heart connection made literal, a physical nerve that runs directly between your digestive system and your heart, carrying signals in both directions. When your gut is inflamed and dysfunctional, those signals are they're disrupted. When your gut is healthy, those signals support your heart's ability to regulate itself properly. Fixing your gut through carnivore eating wasn't just about digestive comfort. It was about removing a source of chronic inflammation and restoring the kind of healthy gut function that supports every system in the body, including your heart. Let me tell you about one more thing I do for my gut health, and I think it's worth adding, to this. Apple cider vinegar. I add apple cider vinegar to my daily routine as an extra aid, specifically to keep acid reflux away. And I want to explain why this works because it seems counterintuitive. If you have acid reflux, why would you add something that's acidic? Here's the thing about acid reflux that most people don't understand. Contrary to what's marketed, antacids, what they tell you about that, acid reflux is often not caused by too much stomach acid. It's frequently caused by too little. When the stomach acid is too low, your stomach doesn't empty properly. Food sits and ferments, and that fermentation creates gas and pressure that pushes whatever acid is in your stomach up into your esophagus, where it causes the burning sensation we know as reflux. Apple cider vinegar, specifically raw unfiltered apple cider vinegar with the mother, adds a small amount of acid to your digestive system that helps normalize stomach pH and supports proper digestion. For many people, it reduces rather than worsens reflux symptoms for exactly this reason. I take a small amount of apple cider vinegar before meals. It has become a consistent part of my routine, and the acid reflux that I use to manage with medication is essentially gone. I also take some before bedtime because this also, I won't go into it in this video, but also helps with cortisol levels before bed. Between the carnivore diet, removing the foods that were causing causing gut inflammation, and the apple cider vinegar support proper stomach acid levels. My digestive system functions better now than it has for quite a while. So let me bring this all together in what I personally experienced since going carnivore and addressing my gut health directly. The bloating is gone. I used to feel distended and uncomfortable after every meal. That's not my life anymore. The belching that was chronic and embarrassing, that's gone. The acid reflux woke me up in the night, and that I managed with medications for years, essentially gone. Managed naturally with diet and apple cider vinegar. But more than the digestive symptoms that I noticed is a general reduction in the low-grade inflammation that I believe was running in the background of my body for years. My energy is better, my thinking is clear, my cardiovascular markers have improved, and while I can't point to any singular change and say that fixed everything, the gut work, the dietary changes, the supplements, the exercise, I can tell you that addressing my gut health was a piece of the puzzle I didn't even know I was missing until I found it. For those of you over 55 managing your heart health, if you are dealing with chronic digestive issues, bloating, reflux, or gut discomfort, I want you to consider the possibility of these symptoms are not just an inconvenience. they may be a sign that something is driving your gut, inflammation that is affecting your heart. And that signal is worth paying attention to. If this video connected the dots that nobody has connected for you before, please share it. This is exactly the kind of information that the standard medical conversation about heart health leaves out. Subscribe to this channel for more honest talk on heart health, nutrition, and healthy aging for people 55 and older, and leave a comment below. Have you dealt with the gut issues alongside your heart health concerns? Has going low carb or carnivore changed your digestive health? I want to hear your story, please. The next video in the series is coming soon. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. I'll see you in the next one.